This video is going to go over volume, and the 3D figures that we're going to look at today are prisms. Prisms are mostly like a box. More often than not, they're either a cube or a rectangular prism, but sometimes you can have a triangular prism, and these are most often used in real life as like ramps to things that you need, or they're a wedge that could be pushed up against something. So here's a math chart. It goes over some different formulas from finding circumference or area of specific shapes. Then it talks about surface area, both lateral and total. And then the section on volume. And then today we're going to do prisms. So the formula we're going to be using today is V equals capital BH. And this capital B actually stands for area of the base. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this chart, and I'm going to write what those two letters represent. So the capital B, it's supposed to represent area of the base. And then the other letter that we're going to need to know today is H. And this actually would be the height of the prism, not the height of the base, but the height of the prism itself. And then we'll put this back into the view it was in a second ago. Okay, the first shape we're going to look at is over here. On the side, I've got a few steps to keep in mind as you're wanting to solve for the volume of the 3D figure. First, we need to know what the shape is. Then we're going to look and focus on just the base. We want to use the numbers or label the base. You don't have to redraw if you don't want to. I normally just shade it. Step 4, we need to get our formula. Step 5, we're going to put the numbers from the figure into the formula. And then step 6, we're going to type it all in one at a time into our calculator. Then at the bottom, here's some reminders. Capital B equals area of the base. The letter H stands for height of the prism. And then, of course, letter V just represents volume of the shape. So this shape is called a cube. Okay, the base is not always the bottom, but a cube really doesn't matter because all the pieces are the exact same size. So I'm going to shade in. It also has two bases. Prisms have two bases. So this would count as a base, as well as this top portion. There are always two bases in a prism, even if there's a triangular prism, there's always two. Okay, you can either choose to redraw the base if you want, or you can just look at it. My choice is just to look at it the way it is in this figure because it's easy to see. We need to use the numbers from the base. So when I look at this, the numbers that are connected to the shape I just colored are 8 and 8. Those go with my base. So now the formula that we need to use, volume equals capital B times H. And remember, area of the base is what capital B means. So the base is a square. And the way you find area of a square is just base times height. Okay, so my numbers are 8. I would just do 8 times 8. And that takes the place of the capital B. And then the last step is letter H is the height of the actual prism. And the height is always going to be the side that is connecting the two bases. So this would be my height. And it's the height because it is connecting the two bases. And that's going to be important in a shape here in a second. Connecting the two bases. And again, since this is a cube, all the numbers are the same. I can now type this entire thing in my calculator, or if you want to do some mental math, 64 times 8 would also work. But when you type it completely in your calculator, you should get 512. The units for this figure were centimeters. We're working with 3D figures, so I like to just remind myself that the label will have a cubed symbol, exponent 3. What I'm trying to figure out basically is how many little cubes would stack up inside this box. So I would read this as 512 cubic centimeters or 512 centimeters cubed. All right, the next figure we're going to look at is the triangular prism. It looks like a ramp. So I'm going to put that down as my name. Triangular prism. And then to shade the base, it is not the bottom piece that it's sitting on. Often people get that confused. The name of the shape identifies the base. So if I look at this now, since it's called triangular prism, that means the triangles are the bases. All right, so shading in the base on this side. And then remember, I said earlier that a prism always has two bases. So looking through the figure to the back, this piece would be the other base. Then I could shade that in as well. I like to do both bases because then I can see the line that's connecting them, and that tells me what the height of the entire prism would be. So no matter what prism you're doing, the formula is always V equals BH, or I'm sorry, V equals capital BH. And then remember, capital B means area of the base. For us, the base is a triangle. And to do a triangle, it is base times height divided by 2. Or you can say half BH, whatever you like. The numbers that go with a triangle. So in order for me to know, one number I see right here is 8. This line doesn't have a number on it, but it corresponds with the number in the background. You'll notice that this is where the right angle is. That's how I know if it's the base and the height. Also, if you think about Pythagorean theorem, this would be A and B. So your two sides A and B are also your base and height of your triangle. So I'm going to use 8 and 2. I'm going to put them in as the dimensions of the base. I'm going to include those in parentheses because it's taking the place of capital letter B. 8 times 2 divided by 2. Triangles are always half. And then remember the line that's connecting my two bases, that's the height. The line that's connecting the two bases. The height of the entire prism is 3. Now when I type that entire thing in my calculator, or if you want to do it mentally, you can. Your final answer should be 24. And this figure is also in centimeters. And volume is again measured in cubic units. So I would say 24 cubic centimeters or 24 centimeters cubed. The last shape we're going to look at is a present. So we have a box, and volume is just meaning how much could this box hold? How much things could I stuff inside it? This shape is rectangular, so the name is going to be a rectangular prism. The bases, sometimes it's hard to tell on a rectangular prism, but it's always going to be two pieces that are alike that are different from the other four. So the ends of this one, there's only two of them that are like this. So I'm going with these two, and I can't actually see the other one, but it's back here. Those are my bases, so I'm going to shade that in. And it is a rectangle. So my base is a rectangle. Whoops, I'll change that back to regular pen. A rectangle base. And it's just base times height. The formula, no matter what, is capital B, H. B is area of the base, and for us, it's 7 and 3. I'm going to put that in parentheses. It's substituting for letter B. And then even though I didn't shade it back here, I could draw a pink line on it maybe, just to say the other base is back here. And then the line that's connecting it, this is actually going to be the height. This particular prism is turned sideways, or it's laying down instead of standing up tall. So I'm going to put 11.5 at the end for the height of the actual prism. Then I can type this entire thing in my calculator, or you can do 7 times 3 in your head and then try to figure out what that would be. But the final answer, when you finish typing it in, is 241.5. This time the box is measured in inches, but again, volume is always going to end with cubic units. So I have my exponent 3, and then final answer would be 241.5 cubic inches.